more than 100,000 unionized employees between Hollywood production crew members, John Deere factory workers, and Kaiser Permanente nurses have overwhelmingly voted to authorize strikes and are preparing to join the picket line unless they get stronger collective bargaining agreements. And John Deere did, in fact, end up going on strike. Now, about 60,000 TV and film production crew workers will go on strike on Monday if their union cannot secure a new contract with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which represents Hollywood, and streaming giants such as the Walt Disney Company, Warner Brothers, and Netflix. And they're demanding exactly what you would expect workers to demand. Simple things like longer meal breaks so they can actually enjoy a meal, better wages. And they also want an end, this is my favorite part, to lower pay for producers who just happen to be working on streaming shows. They tend to get paid less than those who do the production work for television shows.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, the IATSE thing, I mean, it's Friday and they have till Monday, and this will shut this town down, the town that you and I both live in, LA. Everyone's talking about it, and it's just it's pretty wild. I mean, like it would be absolutely unprecedented. I mean, I did my whole decode about it last week, but it would be absolutely unprecedented. Like a shutdown like this, the last time a kind of major Hollywood labor action happened was the writers' strike in 2008. But the writers just don't have the power to shut this all down the way the crews do. There's scripts lying around. There's plenty of scripts lying around that they could shoot. But if the crew doesn't participate, they can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, this is what power looks like, right? Knowing that you have some level of power that you can use as leverage against the employers to get better, obviously, collective bargaining. So let's also talk a little bit about Kaiser Permanente. We're talking about nurses here who haven't gotten a break at all during the pandemic. They're overworked, they're burnt out. Well, the union representing more than 24,000 Kaiser Permanente nurses and other healthcare workers in California and Oregon authorized a potential strike after contract negotiations stalled. Kaiser nurses are pushing for a 4% annual raise and ramped up hiring. They are short-staffed. As a result, they're expected to work longer hours. They're burnt out. And I mean, when you really look at what they're asking for, it's incredibly reasonable. And just think about this in the context of, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, everyone paying lip service, talking about how healthcare workers, these frontline workers, are heroes. The rhetoric is nice, but how about we get some solidarity in order for these healthcare workers to get paid what they deserve to get paid,
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it's Striketober, as they say.
Yeah. Do they? Is that what they say?
The people are saying it. I don't know. People are saying it's Striketober, folks. It's very spooky.
Definitely spooky for some of these major companies. By the way, in regard to the Kaiser workers, the nurses, they oppose the company's offer to increase annual pay by just 1% over the next 3 years and implement a 2-tier system that would pay newly hired workers less than the longer tenured employees. I thought that second part was actually really good to see, because they didn't want to create this division among the nurses. They wanted to make sure that they were treated fairly, equally. And I think that solidarity in the workplace is really important. And so you also have people who are already on strike, including 2,000 New York hospital workers, 700 Massachusetts nurses, 1,400 Kellogg plant workers in Michigan, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, and also Tennessee. And then I want to go back to the 10,000 John Deere workers who couldn't get the agreement that they wanted. And so they decided to go on strike. Now, before we get to some of the details of that strike, I think it's important to look at the health of the company. Let's take a look.
John Deere's profits grew by 61% in recent years. You point that out in your articles. And their CEO's salary grew by 160% during the pandemic. So why aren't employees getting a piece of those profits for the labor that they do every day?
That is the question. I mean, shareholders are getting a piece of the profits. The stock price has doubled since the pandemic. Dividends were hiked recently by 17%. I think that's a great question for CEO John May and the company to answer. The pie is growing. There's a bigger piece that could be handed out to workers.
So I think he's right. I think he's totally right about that. So I love the fact that they rejected the offer that was agreed upon by the United Auto Workers and John Deere.
Yeah, pretty remarkable times. Again, this is it's been a long time since you've seen this kind of private sector labor militancy across so many industries at the same exact time. We've seen in years past, like a lot of labor militancy from teachers, for example. There was the West Virginia teacher strike. There was obviously the Chicago teacher strike, which kind of kicked a lot of this off. But those are public sector workers, slightly different. The private sector activity has been just it's been years since something like this has happened. So very encouraging to see.
Yeah, and there's been some polling that shows the vast majority of Americans, a whopping 77%, have a favorable view of unions. I mean, with 77%, that means that it obviously resonates across the aisle. It's something that, we talk about in various contexts on this show. So it's important to find unity where it could actually really, really help everyone. It could really help transform society. All right.
That's remarkable given like the amount of propaganda that, and the fact the media just like never covers. I mean, it's remarkable to see like ABC News, doing this kind of segment. It's just, it feels weird. Like you just don't see that ever. And so it's remarkable that despite years of labor retreat and, there's just no one knows a labor leader anymore. Like it used to be that some of these labor leaders like were nationwide politicians that everyone kind of knew. And despite all of that, people still understand in their bones that a union is good. So that's always encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, I think what resonates with people is just taking a look at their own lives, like how much they work, how little power they feel in the workplace. So I totally get it. I mean, think about how many people like work in a situation that's so like precarious, where they're so underpaid. I mean, it's gotten to the point where, when you talk about the labor shortage, and I'm going to get into this in more detail in my Decode segment, why would a mother decide to go to work full time, knowing that entire paycheck is going to go toward childcare? So a lot of people are staying home instead. And when you start experiencing it firsthand, you want more power in the workplace. I think that's what this is about.
If you enjoyed this video from Jacobin Weekends, please hit like and subscribe. That way, you'll enjoy all of our backlog, as well as all of our future content, including interviews, live streams, and clips. Thank you.